Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This is a place where we talk a lot about different religions and spiritual movements, and sometimes things from antiquity and from the Bible. Today, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the writings called the books of Enoch, especially Enoch 1. This is a pseudographic writing written in the name of Enoch, who is found in the book of Genesis. And of course, it was written several hundred years before the time of Jesus. But we see quotes from Enoch and some of the themes of Enoch in the New Testament. Scholars don't agree how much the people who wrote the books of Enoch were representative of Jewish people at the time, or even Christian people after the time of Jesus. Some of the ancient writings are meant to explain why things are the way they are. For example, the beginnings of the book of Genesis in the Hebrew scriptures tell us how the world began and how humans came into being, and why some of the things are the way they are. Enoch also does that. So as I read this, a few excerpts from the book of Enoch, the words from the book itself, you'll see how this happens. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. These are the words of the blessing of Enoch, according to which he blessed the chosen and righteous, who must be present on the day of distress, which is appointed for the removal of all the wicked and the impious. So right here we see the theme that is also recorded in the Jewish scriptures and in the Christian scriptures, a duality, how the world is divided, and the current world has evil in it. It's not necessarily a good world, and it's going to come to an end. And on a special day that has been assigned to end this world and bring in a better and a godly world. And people are divided into two categories: the righteous, who will survive this ending and be part of the new world, and the evil, who will be destroyed on that day. So I think you can see how this reflects Jewish writing and perhaps influences Christian. Now, in the book of Genesis, in your Bible, if you have one, you hear the stories of the Nephilim. And also, if you look in the book of Jude, which is only one chapter long, so you can read the whole thing in just a couple of minutes, you see quotes from Genesis and also from the book of Enoch. How much did this kind of writing influence Jesus and the apostles? Well, it's hard to figure out. So let me read you just from chapter 6. It came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, that in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters. So this is after the creation. The population is growing, and there are lots of beautiful women. And the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them, and said to one another, "Come, let us choose for ourselves wives from the children of men, and let us beget for ourselves children." And Semyaza was their leader, and he said to them, "I fear that you may not wish this deed to be done, that I alone will pay for this great sin." And they all answered it and said, "Let's all swear an oath and bind one another with curses, so not to alter this plan, but to carry out this plan effectively." These were the leaders. There were 200 angels, and there were other angels with them. So chapter 7 tells us that they took wives for themselves, and everyone chose for himself one wife each. And they began to go into them and were promiscuous with them, and they taught them charms and spells, and they showed them the cutting of roots and trees. And these women became pregnant and bore large giants. Their height was 3,000 cubits. And they devoured all of the toil of men until men were unable to sustain them. So in other words, these children born to these women were so huge, it took so much food to feed them, that the crops of the people couldn't sustain them. They began to sin against birds and against animals and against reptiles. The giants turned against men in order to devour them. They devoured one another's flesh, and they drank the blood from it, and the earth complained from the lawless ones. Now, I said these things tend to explain how things came to be. So let me just read one more section. And Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields and breastplates, and showed them the things after these, the art of making them bracelets and ornaments, and the art of making up the eyes, and of beautifying the eyelids, and the most precious stones, and all kinds of colored dyes. And the world was changed. So here we have weaponry and various implements and elements to make us actually more beautiful. There was great impiety and much fornication. They went astray and they all became corrupt. But there was even more. Amazarek taught all those who cast spells and roots. Armarus, the release of spells. Barakiel, astrologers. Kokabiel, portents. Tamiel taught astrology. And Asradel taught the path of the moon. And at the destruction of men, they cried out. Their voices reached heaven. So the angels of God, Michael, Gabriel, Suriel, and Uriel, who had not fallen with these watchers, cried out to God about the state of the earth. And the result was the coming of the flood to just what's called Noah's flood in the scriptures, to destroy these evil men. So this tells us the ancient writers of the book of Enoch, this is their description of how all of these things came to be in the earth. They were not the inventions of humans, but we were taught them by these fallen angels. And it was these angels who caused so much evil on the earth that they brought destruction on the earth in the form of a flood. Well, I hope this has been informative, and you'll join me again next time as we look at another writing or movement in spirituality. In the meantime, please stay healthy and well. I will see you soon. Bye-bye for now.